Are you deciding between renting or buying a new home? Being in real estate these days, it seems like the only question people want to ask me about single-family housing is, are we still in a bubble? The problem with that question is that there are great arguments on both sides. Anyone can pick a graph and quote things like historical trends or current supply versus demand and make a very convincing argument. While I don't have a crystal ball, I do believe that we are near the top of the cycle. With the drastic increase in mortgage rates, I see people that I personally know stretching their budget just to get their name on a deed. So I have to ask, is now the right time to be doing this? The beauty and the curse of owning a home in this country is that it is the American dream. Buying that first home has become synonymous with making it in life, and therefore at the top of the list of things to aspire. My husband and I have personally owned a ton of homes over the past few years, and we currently live in our potential forever home. At the same time, I know people who are very, very smart and successful investors who swear that renting a home is the absolute way to go. Which brings me back to the current state of the market. If I believe that annual price appreciation is going to slow significantly or even stop, can I argue that these renters are wrong? As always, when it comes to real estate, my husband and I decided to crunch the numbers. While we love our forever home, we are lucky enough to have access to investments that return 10 to 20% of our money. So the equity in our home could be doing a whole lot more. Obviously, everyone's situation is different and the numbers can vary widely in different parts of the country, but we try to use averages and historical data as much as we could. I will try not to overcomplicate it with things like tax deductions, since once again, that is situational specific. For easy numbers, let's look at a $500,000 home. For expenses, your biggest expense is obviously your mortgage. At a 6% interest rate, your payment would be about $2,400 a month. Contrary to popular argument of a mortgage paying yourself instead of the landlord, about $2,000 of that is going to interest payments in the beginning. So, disregarding principal payoff, your mortgage costs you about $2,000 a month. Property insurance is next. Based on our experience with houses in this price range, insurance is about $150 a month. Next is property taxes. Now here's the huge swing. A $500,000 house in our area costs you about $10,000 in taxes a year. If you live somewhere in the South, you may be paying about half of that. In our experience with rental properties, the tax man is going to get you one way or another, but for this example, to be fair, we will go on the lower end and use $6,000 a year for property taxes. That gives us another $500 of monthly expenses. That's everything, right? All the rental property owners just chuckled because they know that the constantly overlooked house expenses are repairs and capital expenses. There are plenty of articles that you can read about how much to set aside for these numbers, but for repair reserves for major CapEx items, ongoing maintenance, and other expenses, it is usually 1 to 2% of the value of the home per year. Therefore, a $500,000 home would cost you another $500 a month on average for upkeep and repairs. Adding it up, we get $2,000 in mortgage interest, $150 in insurance, $500 for property taxes, and $500 for house expenses. This gives us a monthly total of $3,150. Now, if we compare that to a couple years ago when interest rates were 4%, the numbers are quite different. Your mortgage payment was only $1,900 and only $1,300 was being paid in interest. That brought your total down to $2,500 a month instead of $3,150. Back when I first looked at these numbers, I noted how funny real estate numbers can be. While many of us like to use the 1% rule as a guideline on when to buy a rental property, at 4% interest rates, a 0.5% rule may be pretty close to the tipping point when you should rent versus buy. In other words, if you can find a house that rents for less than 0.5%, for this example, less than $2,500 of its value per month, then expense-wise, you are most likely coming out ahead. Right now, with a 6, 7, 8% mortgage rates, renting seems even more tempting. And with us living in the Northeast, double the property taxes makes it even worse. Instead of a 0.5% rule, it might be more like 0.6 or 0.7%. So the question is, what did we decide to do? Looking at rentals in our area, it was easy to find comparable properties to our current home that are renting for less than 0.5% of the value. Plus, if we sell, we can invest all of the equity in our home and get returns much higher than we believe believe our home appreciation will get us. We both agreed that it made the most financial sense for us to sell our home and rent. Will we actually do it? Probably not. I personally love our house and I really can see our kids growing up in it. While the numbers determine most of our decisions we make in our lives, what is the point in being successful if you can't enjoy it a little? Let me know what factors you are considering as you decide whether or not to rent or buy your next property. And as always, if you like this video and want to see more, please like, subscribe, and share.